guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is my guy. I believe he's probably somewhere in his 30s, probably mid to late 30s at this point. And he shares his story, how he was able to make definitely a comeback in life after a very, very bad first part of it, particularly with his ex-wife. You're going to see this guy here absolutely married the wrong woman, who wasn't just a jerk, and I'm choosing my words carefully in the beginning of this video here because YouTube was sensitive about that in the beginning, but also nuts. And how the reasons, obviously, the way he got with her and why he put up with so much for so long really boiled down to his level of self-respect, self-esteem, upbringing, all that, and how so many guys get into these relationships and it's terrible to them. And although the gal is obviously a piece of something, the guy really is a part of the problem. And how it's so important, guys, that to understand that if you start off in life in the wrong way, you can turn things around. You can have a moment, you have a big epiphany and realize, you know what, this is a mess, I'm done, I'm out of here, learn from it and start over. And this guy now has the last laugh, having a great life, kids and all that, and her life, total mess. So it's so important, guys, why I talk about how it's so important to do things to build yourself up on multiple fronts, to build up your self-esteem, whether it be hitting the gym, exercising, moving your life in a direction that you're achieving something so that you feel good about yourself. Because when you feel good about yourself and you have a higher self-worth, self-esteem, you don't allow people like this into your life to take advantage of you, hurt you, all that type of thing, humiliate you, and certainly not marry them. And that's why I really stress that so much, because otherwise, and it's really, I think there'd be a lot more happier people out there and better relationships, better marriages, all that, if guys really had a good role model, mentor early on to teach them what not to do, help them build up, focus on what they're good at, that type of thing. And this guy clearly did not. But I like that even though he came from a tough beginning, he does turn things around, and we can learn from that here. Even though, as you're going to see, you're going to want to smack the hell out of him 2/3 of this whole story here until the end. So definitely a good one, and I appreciate this guy writing in, as all the guys in the writing embarrassing stories of when they were younger and how they had to learn. He says, strong, successful, and male. Perhaps that's how I am right now, but that's not how I would describe myself several years ago. Well, that's something we can both agree on, but you know what? You had to learn the hard way to get where you are today, as did most of us. To sum it up, I made the same kind of mistakes a lot of men make, which was not focusing on a way I could improve myself, and instead operated for a time with a mindset of insecurity and scarcity, the dreaded semi-simp. Yeah, a lot of guys had that scarcity mindset. I lost a bunch of weight in my younger 20s, started hitting the gym hard for a couple of years. I then started dating women more actively. I got lots of first dates, but what I really wanted was a family. And women around my age really wanted was non-committed, omitted, and games, and quite honestly, probably were picking up on my energy towards the beginning when I was actually attracting pretty decent women to start. Notice he said there that, yeah, already young, he was imagining a girlfriend and somebody serious to lead to a family, and the rest of the gals around him, that was the last thing on their minds. Isn't that amazing? How that is nowadays? And we know where that comes from. Long story short, I basically dated trashier and trashier women until I met the woman who would become my ex-wife. Why? Why did you set your standards so low? Well, because he thought he was crap. And people that are insecure and think they're not worth anything will just take whatever they can get. Will take the low-hanging fruit. And what does that usually bring in their lives? Chaos. Instead of taking the time between to figure out what was wrong with me and how I could improve and believing that I could get to a place where women would come to me, I just kept on lowering my standards to what was acceptable behavior. Smack! Never should do that, guys. But again, guys that are insecure, they don't think they're worth, will take whatever they can get. And women know darn well that they're the type of guys that'll take what they can get. And women will often set some or say a lot will settle with guys like that, not because they love them or care about them, but just to get a ring on their finger and have a wedding. Not a marriage, a wedding. Big show, the whole thing. And the guy's miserable. Guys, you should never sacrifice your core standards for anyone. And I don't just mean women, but in this case, women. Now, you may say, SSM, you sound like a lot of these harpies in their 40s. They're single and alone and complaining, but never gave up on their standards for a guy. Well, those types have ridiculous, giant lists of so-called standards. For guys, you can have a few deal breakers that are no compromising on, and that's okay. And this guy clearly had a lot of those deal breaker standards, if you will, but he would eventually just toss them aside to get any piece of ass to have a girl, which is the worst thing you can do. It's better to be alone than to have someone and you're going to see where that mindset got him. I wasn't even attracted to her at first, but because she was obsessed with me, I liked the way that felt, and it took to me that I was being loved. No. Girl acts like she's obsessed with you, that ain't a healthy thing. But again, if you're a guy that never got any attention from women, and all of a sudden this chick's obsessed with you, and she's good enough looking, you're like, okay, I guess that's what love is. There was a bunch of really glaring red flags in retrospect that I just waved away because I wanted to believe in the stories that she was mirroring back to me. Young and naive. It's really embarrassing thinking back. Stuff like her wanting to have strippers for her bachelorette party and telling me that she wanted me to have them too. What? She wanted you to have strippers so it could justify her having strippers at her bachelorette party, amongst other things. That's what it was all about. I really don't recall many girls ever wanting their guy to have strippers at the bachelor party and get lap dances and all that. And if she does, that says everything about her. Stuff like her getting cold every time I decided to take the bait. She would pull away from the thing that I didn't even want in the first place with her. And then when I would try and walk away, she would instantly reappear. So she's playing games with you. She was so obsessed with me that she would ride with me to my job and pee in the work parking lot. What? Later admitted next to the car because she didn't want to not be with me. She'd ride with you to work. Does she have her own fucking job? And she didn't want to leave you, be without you. So she would crouch down next to the driver's side, the passenger side of the car and take a piss. These weren't signs that this isn't exactly marriage material or relationship material. I hate to imagine what would happen if you had a couple cats at home. What, you go to change the litter box and she didn't want you to be away from her, so she would then take a piss in the litter box? What the fuck, dude? Clearly you were deeply insecure. Clearly you thought you were garbage, that you had to put up with this shit. Or clearly also you were probably one of these codependent types that, well, we'll get into that. I knew something was wrong with her, you think? But I didn't care because I liked the way her obsession felt. And I was being a little bit codependent, quite honestly, what I just said. Yeah, you thought her obsession was love. The bitch is crazy. So I made the mistake of marrying this person. Smack! Oh yeah, because she's going to get so much better after you put a ring on her. Okay. Even though a few weeks before she and I got married, she picked a fight with her sister and got into a physical altercation with her sister, who was the maid of honor, and then cried to me to come and save her when she started to get her butt kicked. Remember what I tell you about pay attention to a girl's family? Aside from, now this chick is enough of a wacko, this guy shouldn't have got involved with her, but then seeing there's drama and turmoil with her family, oh, you think this is going to be any better? After I separated them, when she decided that she didn't want to be embarrassed by not having her maid of honor show up to the wedding, she for a time tried to say that it was me who was fighting with her sister, even though her claw marks were all over her face, and I'd never been in a fight with a woman to this day. Oh, so she blames you. Again, bro, you know, one can call it the universe, one can call it God, but somebody was sending you all these signs repeatedly before you put a ring on her finger and married her that this woman is a train wreck. And yet, you still married her. You know, the Lord's up in heaven like, oh, God, what do I have to do? And he's like, okay, fine. And then the same guy's like, why me? Why me? God's like, I showed you all the signs. That was one of the few things I would not tolerate and did make her eat. I must have missed something here. The whole maid of honor crap. That was one of the few things I would not tolerate and make her eat. But stuff like that was happening. I knew it was trashy. My family was appalled. But I was being pretty pathetic. Pretty pathetic? You were full 100,000% pathetic. Your family was appalled. I'm sure somebody who said something like, why are you marrying this broad? Why are you marrying into this family? What's the matter with you? I gotta wonder if you didn't get a whole lot of love growing up from your family. It's a fair question. A lot of guys that grew up in broken homes, or mom and dad, there just wasn't any love there in the family, it was like cold as ice, they rush into relationships because they want to make up for what they didn't get growing up. and then they rush into things too fast. They don't screen the girl, and they repeat the cycle. After she and I got married, there were still red flags shooting off. Oh, shocker. But it wasn't as bad while she was getting all the attention of the marriage and getting the honeymoon. Then also, it wasn't as bad for a short while after she was getting the attention and the accolades of being a mom when I had a son with her. My God, you brought a child into this world with her. She wanted him to give him some crappy names, but I'll say this, even as sad as I was being, I did not tolerate crap at the expense of my son, and so I gave him a good first name. It's amazing, for like the last 15, 20 years, you have so many kids walking around with these names, just like, say that again? What the fuck is his name, or what the fuck is her name? What happened to good, strong names like John, or George, or William, or female equivalents to those things? Now you have all these weird fucking names. Yes, those names go back pretty far, so they're pretty safe. That's when the mask started to come off. The mask has been fully off for a long time with this girl. She went against the plans that she had proposed herself on her working while I finished up the last bit of school. She started getting guy friends. I'd push back on things, but I would be called manipulative and controlling. And basically she would deny, attack, and then make me out to be the bad person anytime anything happened. Gaslighting, gaslighting, gaslighting. Does it sound like she loves this guy? Does it sound like she respects him in any way, shape, or form? Aside from the fact that she's a wacko? No. And why are you still with her? Why didn't you get rid of her? Oh, you have a kid with her now. It's now harder to leave. Or shall I say, harder on your heart to leave because of your boy. You certainly don't want to leave your boy alone with this nut job. Don't worry, guys. We have a happy ending. But this guy has to go through a whole lot of bullshit to wake up. So before you guys decide to jump ship here, SSM, you're doing another simp story. Well, a lot of these guys start off as simps and they finally learn in the end. And she would threaten my marriage, and I wasn't trying to screw my son over because I've seen the stats of children from divorce. But also, I was being codependent at this point. You bet your ass you were. She got into drugs. She got deeper into alcohol. She became obsessed with this basically porno podcast called Call Her Daddy. I wasn't comfortable with any of it, and I was able to remove the drugs from the home whenever I could find them, but the rest of it was just ongoing point of conflict, where I was told that I was off for not wanting those things in my life, and that somehow it was my fault. Now she's into drugs. Bro, you cannot be with this woman. What the fuck? And guess what? I know you would say, I don't want a divorce because of my son. Well, guess what? We all know divorce is inevitable anyway. You're endangering your kid having him around her. What if she has to take him somewhere when you're not around and she's all drugged up or drunk or something like that, and you get the point? She disappeared from the home and started going to visit her friends with money that we did not have. She purposely sabotaged my health, sustaining efforts, and later admitted to not wanting to be the big fat black gal with a skinny short white guy, which confused me again. I was never attracted to her to start things off again. If you were never attracted to her, why were you with her? Because she gave you a lot of attention. And she was obsessive, and she was a wacko. And even though I had wanted her to lose weight, and she had promised to do so, that was an expectation that she herself set. And I said it was important to me before any marriage happened, and she was just too lazy and incapable. So she did the only thing she knew how to do, which was try to fatten me up, and she succeeded. Well, there's a tactic for you. Guy wants the girl to lose weight, so she's going to start trying to fatten him up. Well, guess what? Unless she tied you up and force-fed you junk food, you're the one who fucking ate it, dude. Yeah, of course she didn't do anything about her weight. How many guys have their wives or girlfriends, oh, I'll do something about it? Yeah, sure. And by the way, again, why'd you marry her? She racked up credit card debt on cards that I both knew about and didn't know about. She would also spend money from tuition assistance because she decided to go back to school. And she spent it on stupid things that didn't make any sense, like a $1,250 toy poodle. Oh my God. This is why you spend years with your girl getting to know her. But I guess you did spend time getting to know her and you still married her anyway. You were the dumb fuck that did that. And yes, I'm saying that. You need to hear it. And I know you know this now. But again, guys, he will learn. One day I started to realize just how bad things were. Really? Like, I feel like Back to the Future with Biff would always like knock on George McFly's head and say, hello, hello McFly. Yeah, we got fucking McFly here. Jesus. I realized how bad things were when she asked me if I had ever an interest in opening up the marriage. Well, it doesn't sound to me she's very attractive, so who'd want to open up her parts? Ugh. She started trying to talk about inviting other women into it, and I figured that was just a gateway for male trouble, and also that was something that I wanted to do myself with or without my son watching. That's not something I believe in to be a good thing. She wanted to do that with your kid around. Eventually, she cheated on me. No shit, really? Who would have thought? I guarantee she was cheating on you all along. She was cheating on me in the 3rd year of our marriage while I was singing to my son to sleep, and he still loves to hear this years later. She's vindictive and malicious. She vindictively and maliciously wrote what she did down in detail and asked me to read it, and then asked me if I thought she was a sadist because she liked me and trying to comfort me. Bro, this woman, aside from being the fact that she's nuts and a piece of garbage, and the world would be better if she dropped dead, has absolutely no respect for you whatsoever. And the more a guy puts up with a woman's bullshit and disrespect on all levels and craziness and cheating, the worse it gets. I'm making my point right here in this story. It was going to take something crazy like that for me to wake the hell up and look at my life from outside of this box and say no and say I had enough. Well, yeah. Even though my family was telling me all the wrong things about hanging in there and family is everything, not understanding what the heck I got myself into with this person, and not understanding how bad we truly were, even though they had distanced themselves from me and their feelings of me, letting her take me away from them. So your family was trying to say, I guess they were like, well, you're married now, so you got to stay in it. You got to work through it for the kid. Mom, Dad, she's crazy. Is this the same family that were appalled that you're with her? I was going to take something crazy like that for me. It was going to take something crazy like that for me to stop suffering the guilt trips of failing for my son, and for me to look at it from another angle, which was, what do I want my son to do in this situation? What would I tell my son to do? And I started making choices based on that. That's a good idea. Guys, if you are in a miserable marriage and your wife's treating you like dog shit and you have a son, and you're sticking around because you're either too weak to leave, or you don't want to leave because it'll mess up the kids, what advice would you give your son if he was in that same situation? You'd probably would tell him to get out of this situation, find a way. Well, there you go. So I went and got tested. I had received chlamydia from the only woman I ever been with. The woman who's the gift that keeps on giving. The mother of my child and wife had gone so far on her way to try and act like she was a good one that she has served a religious mission for a year and a half in another country. I divorced her so fast and got custody, even though she tried to hoot me many times. Thank God. Got custody too. She must have been pretty bad in the eyes of the court or the judge for you to get custody, given how things are. Thank God, man. At least this is not some story you spent 20 years with this broad. Now, this is great. He left, but does he learn anything? Well, he does. Even though she tried to get fake restraining orders, even though she tried to crush me with a smear campaign, it did not work. I took the pieces of myself that I saw as valuable and let the pieces of myself that I saw as needing to go. Jumping off a bridge in Minecraft, if you will. I grew back into myself, but as a newer, better version, and kissed that person and the ideas that that person had of his ex-wife goodbye, because that's all they really were. Good. That's what you do in a situation, guys. Yes, we all fuck up, and this guy fucked up royally with this gal, and I can see where a lot of that came from deep insecurity. This is the only girl he's ever been with. Ding, ding, ding. I really bet you that he probably didn't get a whole lot of love and support that he needed, whether he realized it or not, from his family growing up. So he probably rushed into a relationship with some girl whose crazy obsession he misinterpreted for love, and look what happened. And he just tried, and she take. This is why I do this channel, guys, and why I share stories even like this that make you want to pull your hair out for you guys to see, and to see a guy can turn shit around. They were the ideas I had about who she could have been, the ideas that she latched onto and mirrored back to me so that she would seem like someone worth valuing. There was nothing worth valuing about her, but it sounds like you saw her as a fixer-upper. Someone you saw the good in her, potential. That's what I'm getting from that line. That's what women do. They're the bad boys. They find a guy who's a fixer-upper. Oh, he could be just so great if I did this, or I helped him. How does that work out for them? Because my ex-wife changed her name during a rage fit on social media, she signaled to other women that I was on the market. This woman that I had known when she was a girl at church approached me after a greeting day. She said she noticed that the name was changed and offered to be a shoulder. Ha ha. Yeah, amazing how you become single and they start flocking towards you. At this point, I'd wised up enough to know what was going on and we got pretty quickly from there. That woman eventually became my wife and mother to my 2 sons. Well, obviously this story is going to end on a high note, but I'm trusting you took some time being single and learning from your mistakes and letting the dust settle before you got with another woman here, but okay, you moved on to somebody better. I have handsome, strong sons. She took me when I had nothing but myself and debt from my ex-wife's credit card shenanigans, and from over the last 5 years we got married. I went back and got more custody of my son when things with my ex got even more out of control. Okay, so you had partial or most of the custody, but she still got your kids sometimes. Then you got full custody. My new wife and I had a baby. We bought a house and we basically paid off already. After I graduated college and got the job that my ex-wife couldn't wait another year for, but to this day feels like she's entitled to the outcome. Well, it sounds like you got a woman now, your wife, who obviously is not stupid with money and she's good to you and loving and loyal. Great. Meanwhile, my ex-wife's mother came to live with her since her sister lost custody seemingly of her own daughter, and there was no purpose for the mom there anymore. They rent an apartment in trashy parts of town, and they continually move, never satisfied with each next crappy place they're at. I'm pretty sure she has been up to no good, still thieving from society in the ways that she has admitted to me in the past that she has done. So big surprise, she's still a giant lowlife and drain on society, as is her sister, as is her mother. You would have noticed this early on if you spent more time studying her family before you got involved with her. And that's why I say, guys, pay attention to her families, because that's going to become your family. And they'll be the family of your kids. I can't stress that enough. Meanwhile, she feels entitled to helpful resources intended for people with nothing that she probably should have access to. In other words, she milks the system. One of those types. But still, she's always so poor and so alone outside of the often and has toxic relationships that she has with her 2 remaining siblings and always cycling out of friends. So in other words, she can't keep any friendships because she's nuts. Meanwhile, I try and be an equal with my wife, but she has me leading the relationship, and she treats me like a king every day, and I sure love her for that. Well, that's great. She should treat you like a king, but she ain't going to treat you like a king if you behave like you did in your previous marriage. She's going to treat you like a fucking court jester because you behaved like a fucking court jester in your previous marriage. So thankfully you've learned. And if you start behaving like a court jester, the wife you have right now who treats you like a king will treat you like a court jester. So just be careful. She and I were once kind of peasants, and now we are kind of like lords, and we pull each other up ourselves. You would love to see it. We are raising our sons with traditional values and with self-worth outside of the toxic narratives that paved the way for me to think that women were victims and men were always in the wrong, and allowed me to go down some dark paths. Yeah, that's the dark narrative out there. They're all victims, and it's always the guy's fault, and we're the bad guys, or we're supposed to just put up with their bullshit and everything. No. Or men are terrible, blah, blah, blah. Wise men learn from the successes and failures of others. You're darn right. That's why I do this channel. Feast on the experiences like mine. Take what you will to enrich your own life. Watch for the warning signs in other people and even yourself. Especially because at the end of the day, who you are being day to day, right now, in the present, is the direction that you are going to go in the future. I agree, man. You've learned something. Good. If you think that you are in a bad way, somehow, if you've identified that something isn't right within you or a situation that you're in, stop and take a breath and step out of your picture frame and think about it from another perspective. Right. I like how you said, when you looked at the situation, would you give your son the same advice? With your ex-wife? No. If your son was in the same situation you were, you'd tell him to divorce the fat bitch. That's what you would tell him to do, and not stay with her. So, and that was like your epiphany. When you're making everyday life choices, and certainly big life choices, think about it like you were talking to someone you really love and giving them advice. Someone like your son. Someone like a person you would mentor. And then follow that advice. Visualize it. Everybody loves a good training montage. That's how we see ourselves going through life. So if you can visualize it, you can potentially do it. Exactly. I just did a video an hour ago that I filmed for a guy asking me how he can stay laser focused on his purpose to make his dreams come true. And the first thing I said is, you got to have a vision. You know, I learned this by listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger give speeches about the vision, the most important thing. Have that grand goal in your head and have that in your mind all the freaking time. When you go to bed at night, get up in the morning, the vision. You visualize it, you can do it. Always have the vision. Never let it go. The TDLR is don't be a doormat like I was, having been raised to believe that there was something inherently wrong with you and that you need to fight for scraps. Here he just said how I was raised. Aha. I told you there's something up with his family, with the way he is. Yep. Don't be some douchebag, jaded, and bitter jackass. Just walk away from the people that aren't worth your time and walk into what brings you joy. That's all. Just walk away from the things that suck and walk towards things that do not. The quieter and the quicker and the easier that you do that, become able to do this, the less drama, the less chaos, and the more awesome. The more awesome your life will be, just that way in the long run. That's what I've learned. It's hard to be both competent and confident at the same time, but those people are the ones who are willing to learn from the fastest from their mistakes. Yes, you have to always learn from mistakes, guys. Or better yet, learn from somebody else's mistakes. But let's be honest here, a lot of times other people's mistakes go in one ear and out the other because guys think, nope, 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 I know what I'm doing here. She's different, that type of thing. A happy life isn't collecting things out in the world to fill a void with. Joy is found by living according to the good of who you authentically are from within. Life is a mirror, not a window. Who you are is what you deserve. Have high standards, not just for others, but also of yourself, rooted in reality and wisdom. Value things worth valuing and figure out where your choices lead and do not lead. Even though you may feel invisible in your late teens and 20s, if you work really hard and smart as a man, you may not understand it, but your time is coming in your 30s and 40s. Exactly. That's why I say a guy's prime really begins in his 30s on up. Well, interestingly, a woman's prime starts to decline in her 30s and down. Because, let's be honest, men are purpose-driven and success-driven, or at least we should be. And the value of a guy, at least seen from the opposite sexes, is obviously success and you know, let's be honest here, money and wealth and all that. And most guys aren't achieving that until later on in life. And the funny thing is, you get to your 30s, guys, and definitely your 40s, and you're doing very well for yourself, and you take care of yourself, even if it means you're not rich, but you know you're living well, and you're looking good, and you exercise. You got plenty of options. It's just a lot of guys don't realize that, you know. Hopefully, you can skip these misfortunes of mine by seeing the warning signs and chasing the things in life that are good, the good within you. Let the weak become strong, and the bad within you lose out. Don't just be a victim of your circumstances. Don't be a cog in the wheel. Good luck, brothers and sisters, even. I think this stuff applies to everyone. I like what you just said there. Don't be a victim of circumstances. Well, let's be honest. I think a huge chunk of the population, and I mean huge, all act like they're victims. They feel entitled to this, and this in life because, you know, their sob story and stuff like that, and they're victims, therefore they can't do anything better, so, you know, and they feel entitled to this, and this. Newsflash, gentlemen, nobody is entitled to shit, okay? You make your life, okay? I would say the only thing you're entitled to is living in a safe environment and living in a place that has laws and is set up in a way that you can advance yourself through working hard, working smart, but that's, and obviously safety and things like that, but beyond that, no. But you got a lot of entitled fucking people in this world that are victims, professional victims, and are boo-hoo, woe is me. I have no tolerance for that shit. Anyhow, bro, you effed up royally in your first marriage. But that is a result, obviously, of your upbringing and low self-esteem, low self-worth. And I guarantee you how you were raised by your family had a big part of that. But you finally had enough. And I think you're seeing your son and having that little boy look up at you and have that moment realizing what I tell my son to do, what I'm doing here, did that for you, and that's great. And now you see life differently. You have a new wife, new sons. You're running your life, your marriage completely differently. A lot of guys got to go through a lot of suffering to turn shit around, and your reflection on things is, I agree with. So that's great. So good job for you. Total 180. I'm proud of you. Good job for you, and you're gonna be a good dad to your sons. And I wish you all the best. So guys, there you go. You can turn shit around. You can fuck up royally in ways that are so embarrassing that you don't want to pop up your head. And by the way, shout out to this guy and all the other guys in there that have the balls to write in their stories that are embarrassing and humiliating about their past and get shit about it and yet are willing to do so to help other guys. I really appreciate you writing in and all the guys out there that do this. I know I give you shit, but usually when I give you shit, it's about shit you've done in the past, not right now. And of course, you know what you're getting into. So good job, bro. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.